so I'm not going to be quite as technical as the last speaker, and I'm not going to have explosions like the speaker before. But I am going to talk about a technology that, I believe is one of the two technologies that's going to change the world quite a bit. So Roger Ver, who's known as Bitcoin Jesus, actually, I ran the blockchain panel at CES last week and was fortunate enough to get Roger, who doesn't speak that much in the United States, on the panel along with Brock Pierce, who's the chairman of the Bitcoin Foundation, and Joseph Lubin, who's one of the founders of Ethereum, all on one panel. And he said that basically AI and blockchain were going to change the world, and it was just interesting for him to put AI first. So we recently had the 8th birthday of Bitcoin. Many people think of blockchain and Bitcoin as sort of two separate areas, and they're certainly branching, but there is no blockchain without the existence of Bitcoin because Satoshi Nakamoto, whoever he, she, or they are, created the concept of blockchain as open source software, and it now has gone into several hundred public blockchains and many private blockchains, including the consortium of Hyperledger, which IBM and Intel and Microsoft and many others are behind. So you can see it's getting pretty rapid adoption in enterprise in the same way that the public internet many, many years ago started as a defense industry project, then a consortium of many countries, but most of the value has really been on what they call the stacks, companies that didn't even exist 20 years ago, Facebook, Amazon, Google. So raise of hands, how many people have a reasonable idea of what the blockchain and Bitcoin are? Raise of hands. So about half, okay. So I'm not going to go into everything you can say about it, but I'm going to try to piece together where blockchain and Hollywood and AI might move together. I did a talk about almost 3 years ago at TEDx Hollywood where I talked about Bitcoin and Hollywood. That's still up on YouTube if you want to Google my name and TEDx. So I'm sure we're all fans of Arthur C. Clarke, and he famously said, any teacher who can be replaced by a machine should be. And so the question now is any storyteller who can be replaced by a machine, should they be? Or how much creativity do we need when we have true artificial intelligence and not just machine learning? I mean, obviously, the original goal of AI, and a disclosure, my brother went to the MIT Artificial Intelligence Lab in the 80s, so he was back there in the early pick and shovels days of creating things with Lisp programming, which stands for lots of irritating single parentheses. Computer joke, cop side joke, and Prolog. And back then, they basically would go and interview experts in a subject and create things called expert systems, where you would take the greatest mind in the world on how to find oil in a certain area. And they would just ask them things and say, if this, then this, if this, then this. Because as you know, the world's greatest expert usually beats computers, or at least did back then. And they wanted to keep their knowledge and their thought process alive when the person who they were interviewing was no longer alive. And so we look at artists, and how much more difficult is that? There was a bet taken among the top chess players of the world in the 1960s that a computer could beat the world grandmaster. And of course, when the bet happened, the world grandmaster, cleaned the clock of the computer. These days, IBM has a computer that beats the world chess player. It's a close game, is draws, etc., but we're at the point now where the World Chess Championship, if you have computers and people, will be between two computers. And certainly chess is no less complex than creativity. And disclosure, I was a former Syracuse University chess champion. So So we're going to talk a little bit about, obviously, IBM, Microsoft, and Google have huge initiatives in this area. But I'm going to say something controversial. I think that AI, for all the stories of killer robots, actually humanizes the entertainment experience, because you're, for the first time, able to have really true personalization. And this hasn't happened fully yet, but just think of the possibilities where you can go in, just like you go on Amazon now, and say, if you like this movie, you might like this movie. Imagine entire stories that are created for the type of ending that you might like, the type of plot level. So you'll never, again, take into its conclusion, have a conditional branching of a story that you don't like how it turned out. So again, AI-based storytelling is really in its infancy now, because you get real-time authentic feedback, and the more data you put in, and obviously we've got almost unlimited amounts of data storage and big data innovation going on. So I like to think of AI as sort of big data with a brain, and obviously with the bots that were just talked about early. And the early expert systems really give you sort of an eternal knowledge. Imagine if we were able to do a really deep dive with Shakespeare about what his next plays would have been. And back in the early 90s, Steve Glenn, who now runs Living Home, so he's moved into a different field of innovation, and many of you know him. He's a local in Santa Monica. He was working with virtual actors and virtual sets in the early 90s, and obviously what we saw in the talk before last took that much further. So what the blockchain adds to AI? First of all, just in general, without even talking about entertainment applications, the blockchain inherently is much more secure than the cloud. You read about all of these hacks for your medical records, for your credit cards, where some really good Russian or North Korean programmer, hacker, cyber threat hacker goes in and punctures the cloud and outspill 130 million medical records from United Healthcare, outspill 60, 70 million credit cards numbers. When you put things on the blockchain, if you have 100 million records, you have to puncture every record individually. If you're able to go and take the thousands of years that it takes to hack a single record, that's all you get is one record. So imagine that as a storage point for all the data that AI brings. It's infinitely more permanent. The blockchain is essentially a permanent, they call it immutable record. So even though you can change it, somebody can move something from one place to another, you have a complete audit trail of where it started or where it finished. And so then there's no moving targets in a big data search. Imagine having a blockchain with IMDb for the rest of mankind and being able to put all sorts of things on there and always being able to have a perfect audit trail. And then the other thing also is that the blockchain, particularly the public blockchains like Bitcoin, have a payment, inherent payment structure. Essentially, it's people have called it the Internet of Money. I really think it was the Internet of Value, because what Bitcoin created with the blockchain and with all blockchains is the first time that you had a digital asset instead of a digital file. And the difference is important. When I take a picture with my iPhone of the crowd, say cheese, I can send it to anybody here and I still have a copy. If I take a token from a blockchain and I send it to someone else, I no longer have the token. If I have a Bitcoin and I send you a Bitcoin from my wallet, or 100 millionth of a Bitcoin, known as a Satoshi, I no longer have it, you have it. And so that brings a lot of possibilities in terms of digital assets that can be created and sold within the entertainment community. Obviously, payments is a no-brainer, but you can now have payments that are automated by artificial. Well, I'll get to that in the next slide. So basically, the areas that blockchain has been talked about really for the last couple of years, since people talked about blockchain independent from Bitcoin about 2 years ago. Payments, rights management. Many people talk about the combination of rights management and smart contracts, meaning there's no longer a need for lawyers. We'll see. They'll just work their way in as lawyers who are experts in smart contracts. Marketing, promotions, and loyalty programs that, again, can create, I'll get to it. Okay, distribution. and digital assets. I actually had spoken at my TEDx Hollywood talk about, at the time, somebody had created a fake coin called Kanye West, and they were selling it on different markets, and Kanye West was going after them. And it was an anonymous person. They couldn't find where it was. They were trying to shut down the account. Well, imagine if there was a real coin I am. I mean, so there's definitely a room for, and there's a few folks working on it, and I'm working on some of these areas with my incubator to be able to create digital assets for artists and for studios that can then be traded and can be rewarded for loyalty and as part of a transaction. So again, you take payments, now you have payments that are automated with infinite variables. So instead of just simply saying, like you would now, okay, we take Bitcoin, go in and hold your wallet up and go and make a payment, etc. You can have a different type of token because they can all interchange within a multi-currency wallet. Something that's instant instead of taking 10 or 20 or 30 minutes to go through the blockchain, that then has the variable of being able to automatically be rewarded upon you getting your 10th purchase, or upon some algorithm saying, you know, yes, I want to go and buy this on a regular basis. As long as you keep your wallet full, just like your credit card with automatic payments, you're able to go and do this with a very low level of AI attached. So then rights management, you can add AI to rights management and have a system of real-time global alerts. Anytime there's a violation that someone can find through systems of search, you can then have an enforcement action that's triggered, again, starting from the actual permanent record of who the rights belong to on the blockchain, instead of having to search around and find out who owns this right today and tomorrow. And you can even tie in accounting and distribution. Somebody violates this, here's the enforcement action, here's the IP holder, and money shows up at their account. Smart contracts become living smart contracts. Again, with AI, smart contracts aren't just something that's set, if this, then this, and it automatically happens because it is immutable and it's set up so that you no longer have to say, okay, you're supposed to pay me, but I'm not doing it. It's in escrow. And so when you add AI to it, it makes, you know, sort of the agents that were talked about earlier, it makes it a lot more robust and living again. Marketing, promotions, and loyalty. You can create intelligent assets, and instead of just having a loyalty token that only you can use, and if you don't use it, it expires, you can have a loyalty token that actually can be traded on the public markets. And by public markets, I'm not talking about NASDAQ, I'm talking about Poloniex, Bittrex. Coinbase right now only trades a handful, Bitcoin and Ethereum, but if they don't add others, the other ones will start adding Bitcoin. And these are, again, the growth of this industry is still very small. Bitcoin itself is only $13 billion as of today. All digital assets are around $14.5 billion. But if you look back, again, it's 8 years old. If you look back, after 1 year of Bitcoin was the first time that they had a value. And all Bitcoin on Earth in the start of 2010, any guesses how much it was worth? It's $2,500. They had 2.5 million Bitcoin, and they were valued at 1/10 of a cent apiece. Today it's about $810 last I checked, and it's gotten up twice over 1,000. And most of the experts say Bitcoin alone, because the supply and demand of what's happening in the third world, will be over 10,000 within the next 4 years. I'm a believer of that, by the way. But there's many other things that can then go when you think of Bitcoin as being sort of the center a currency of record that then everything else goes against, and it can be instantly changeable without having to go through any banks, without having to go through anything other than a program where you get your fiat money in and you get your fiat money out, and you have to go through all the banking things that you have. But at some point, obviously, some of these things will just simply become the primary payment mechanism, like they are in places in Africa already, where you have cell phone minutes being the primary payment mechanism for even buying a banana. Distribution, you can imagine what distribution has in terms of the ability to take all these technologies and to be able to add distribution and accounting and payments all in one. So public, private, and permission blockchains, just very quickly, public blockchains are ones that do trade on open markets. They have buyers and sellers. Bitcoin's the best known one. Ethereum is, we helped launch Ethereum. They started trading a year ago. They were sold initially at 30 cents. They're about $11 now. Monero is one of a new hot group of privacy coins where basically people say Bitcoin are untraceable. They're actually pretty traceable. Monero and a couple of other ones are really looking for sort of this privacy market. And Steam is a token that started earlier this year that essentially is a decentralized Reddit. And it grew to a market cap of over 400 million very quickly on demand. But you can go in, and when you get content that people like, they tip you, and then that asset then grows in value and gets traded for other people to get influence. And I think we're just at the beginning of that type of influence coin. Permission blockchains like Hyperledger, these are ones that are typically not tradable, so they're private, but they're not owned by just one group. Hyperledger is one group that has a consortium run by the Linux Foundation. Chain is a group that's raised about 30-40 million. It's in San Francisco. It's got offices here as well. And then Gem is based in Santa Monica. They help groups create specific types of content. And they haven't really even gotten to the entertainment industry yet because there's just so much to do in finance and medical records. But when they do, there's a lot of places now that weren't here 2 years ago where you can turn to innovate. And then private blockchains is where it gives you complete freedom. You'll have one company that can create its own rules and just use the permanence of the blockchain and smart contracts and payments. So that's it. I run Transform Group. We worked with over 100 clients in the blockchain space. We also have a division called Coinnovate that advises and creates digital assets for companies. And I started the top Bitcoin and blockchain investment conference in Las Vegas 3 years ago. We run a fall conference in Las Vegas, and we're going to be having our first conference in the Caribbean in spring, March 3rd to 5th in San Juan. The investment side, I started BitAngels in early 2013. We've got about 500 members. It's the oldest angel group for blockchain companies. B-Commerce Labs is something that I started a year ago with a technology partner, and we like to think of ourselves as sort of the idea lab of blockchain. It's our own ideas, and we're creating them. And the first one out is a Bitcoin-powered eBay-style marketplace called cryptomarket.co. It's up and running. I didn't put a link there. But we're looking at public blockchains for entertainment, for e-commerce. We've got a lot of interest in having a compliant payment coin for marijuana to solve the issues there of not being able to use banks for something that's legal in California and other states. And then I have a Bitcoin syndicate on AngelList and completed a fund that did very well. That's my information at Michael Terpin on Twitter and michael@terpin.com among some other addresses, and I'll take questions. Thank you. Yes. Honestly, I think there's going to be all. I think there's going to have permission blockchains. Permission blockchains will take a long time, right? So in other words, you can imagine there being a Hulu blockchain, right? So you're going to get all the studios together, and they have to go and write the rules, and they'll get all the lawyers to go and write the smart contracts, and what do they want to have in there? And while they're doing it, somebody might come up with a public trading token that solves the problem. And so it's up to the marketplace. And there are also permissioned and private blockchain layers that ride on top of public blockchains like Ethereum. Most smart contracts are written on Ethereum. People treat it like it's private or permissioned, and some of its applications are. But Ethereum itself, you can go and buy Ethereum, and you actually need to buy Ethereum if you're going to use it. Yes?
Michael, is your BitAngels Fund 1 kind of like a mutual fund for blockchain?
So BitAngels Fund 1 is now distributed. It was a commodities fund, so we raised $6 million we actually raised it in cryptocurrency. So it was more of a venture capital fund. It was structured as such with managing directors, and we took a carry and general partners and limiteds. And we actually, because how fast things move, we were able to distribute the proceeds a year after we started at 3x. And we actually distributed the coins, which we told people they should hold on to the coins for at least one more year. And a year afterwards, the fund's proceeds were actually 8x what was invested. So we're looking at something with some new partners to kind of expand on that in the future. Yes. Wrap. Okay. That's not a question. That's a order. Okay. Thank you very much. I'll be around the rest of the day.